I think what I have to say is going to make your trip more unique, memorable, and give you a lot of stories that will last for a lifetime. What is good, everyone? Welcome to the channel. My name is Paul and I make videos about Japanese society, life, and culture from the viewpoint of a long-term foreign resident. I've been in Japan for 19 years now, and today I'm going to give you my top 5 tips for travel in Japan. Now, these top 5, top 10, top 20 lists are all over Japan by a ton of Japan-based YouTubers. A lot of them about 3 things to do in Shibuya or 10 things to do in Kyoto, etc. And I do sometimes watch those videos. They come across my feed and I take a look at them. But to be honest, they're not very useful for me because most of them don't really say anything new. There are a lot of the same tips, a lot of the same things that are said again and again. And, you know, they're done really nicely with nice footage and, you know, edited nicely. But not a lot of new content, honestly. So, being a contrarian, I thought I would do my top 5 list and really kind of put my guarantee on that list of 5 things that no one else has said any of this. So, you can hold me to that. I'm coming to you today from Oshino in Yamanashi Prefecture. You can see Mount Fuji over there right now across the rice fields. And my first tip to you that I bet you haven't heard before is don't go to Tokyo. Now, that might sound super controversial, but let me explain what I mean. Tokyo is a world-class city. It's like going to Paris or London or New York or Rome or any other place where the city itself is an experience. And you kind of want to spend, 5 days a week, 10 days there to really enjoy that world-class city. And I get it. Japan is super far away for most of my viewers who are in Europe and North America. And so when you come to Japan, you're like, well, I gotta go to Tokyo and I want to see other parts of Japan. This might be my last trip, my last chance to experience this. Here's the thing. If you come, you really should experience Tokyo in all of its finery, meaning spend a good amount of time there. You could be there for weeks and not run out of new things to do, see, experience, eat, etc. Not to mention, there's really great day trips outside of Tokyo, like south to Yokohama or to Kamakura, or head north to Nikko in Tochigi Prefecture, or head out west to Mount Fuji. You can do all of those as a day trip. But here's the thing. Tokyo is not the rest of Japan. They're just not the same thing at all. So if you really want to have the Japan experience, you might have to save Tokyo for a future trip. Honestly, do the outside Tokyo part of Japan on your first trip. And then, Haneda, Narita airports are close to Tokyo, so you might as well just do a cheaper, less travel around the country second trip in the future. The rest of the things on this list are kind of related to that. It's more like travel philosophy in Japan than giving you specific places to go or specific places that you should go eat. You have a lot of other lists that you can go check that out on the rest of YouTube if that's what you want to watch. But I think you should stick around because I think what I have to say is going to make your trip more unique, memorable, and give you a lot of stories that will last for a lifetime. So let's get into tip number 2, which is research. Actually take some time to figure out what you really want to get out of your Japan experience. Basically, when anyone ever contacts me and asks me for advice on what they should do, go to, eat, or see, I always reply the same way. I reply with, well, what is it that you really want to experience in Japan? Because I can tailor a trip to what you're interested in, but if you don't give me any of that information, then all I could do is give you the generic tips and tricks that you can get anywhere else. So do a little research and really get into what you want to get out of your Japan trip. Is it you really want to have a sumo experience while you're here? Or there's a certain food that you absolutely have to try? Or there's a city that you really, really want to go see? Have those things kind of ironed out in your brain before you come and have a real concrete idea of what you're going to do when you're here. And I'll give you the example to basically explain what I mean. The first time I went to Kyoto, I'd been in Japan for 3 months, and I was super excited to go to Kyoto. I'd always wanted to go to Japan's old capital, and well, it ended up being a really huge disappointment. I had great fun with my friends that I went along with on that trip, but the trip itself was really unmemorable. Like, I remember some of the shenanigans that my friends and I got up to, but I don't remember the sightseeing, what actually happened in Kyoto itself. And the reason is, if you go there and you travel from shrine to temple and temple to shrine and historical marker to historical marker, you don't really have a sense of anything if you haven't researched it beforehand. You don't know what you're looking at. You might get some pretty pictures, but for me, those pretty pictures are all I remember of that trip. I look at the picture and then I'm like, oh yeah, I remember going there, I guess, but not really. So research and nail down, because that's going to really get you an experience tailored to what you want, and it's going to be far more fulfilling. Which actually leads me to a counterintuitive third tip for what I just talked about. Leave space, even full days, for adventures. What I mean by that is, leave your itinerary open to allow things to happen that aren't planned. Say, for example, you're going to Osaka for 3 days. Plan 2 of them to hit all the things you really want to do, and then just have a free day where you can figure it out as you go. Because what might happen on the first or second day, some locals might tell you about an event that's happening, or some other people that you meet might invite you to go do something, or you might discover just from advertisements or brochures or something along the way that, oh, let's really go check this out. And even if that doesn't happen, even if the third day ends up being just a free day, great. Pick a part of the city and go explore it, because what's going to happen is you're going to have a completely unique and personal experience. You're going to find your Japan, so to speak, and you're going to come away with different photos and different stories than everyone else. And sometimes by going to the places where not all the other tourists are going, you're going to be welcomed differently by locals there, and you're going to have very different and unique experiences. So that's recommendation 3. Leave space for those adventures. This was a lesson I learned when I was in university. I was exploring northern Wales. I had a great time with my friend, but then I had a free day by myself, and I just walked around the town of Conwy in North Wales, and I had a wonderful time. Even got invited to have tea with a little old lady at her house. And that happened because I went into a local cafe for lunch that was all common tables, so I ended up sitting next to this little group of little old ladies and got invited for tea. And to this day, that is the experience of Northern Wales that I remember the most clearly. And that's over 20 years ago. I'll never forget it. And going into that cafe for lunch is actually leading to my 4th point, which I call open the door. Japan can maybe feel intimidating when you don't know the language, or you might be nervous that locals will show you the cold shoulder. But 99 times out of 100, going into the local place is going to give you that amazing memory and story for when you go back home. It's going to give you the Instagram shots that are different from everyone else's. And that's the thing. Morning time, you're looking for a place to have coffee, Starbucks or a local coffee shop that's been open since the 60s. The one that's been open since the 60s, that's full of regulars, might seem really intimidating, but I say open that door. Starbucks, it's safe, but it's also not interesting. Same as if you're looking for a restaurant for lunch and there's a super local noodle joint and it looks like the people sitting in there at the counter laughing with the owner are really good friends. And next to it, there's a chain ramen shop. Go into the local joint. Seriously. That is where you're going to create your unique and wonderful Japan experience. So open that door. Don't just cop out and go to the safe option. Honestly, I think that's why konbini are so popular with foreigners in Japan. Yes, Japanese konbini are world class in terms of quality, selection, etc. compared to convenience stores everywhere else, but it's still a convenience store. I think a lot of people go there because it's safe. And finally, number 5, the last thing I want to bring up is I actually recommend watching those top 5, top 10, top 20 lists. You know, go through a few of them, make some notes, and then find 1, 2, or 3 places in Japan that no one has mentioned on any of those lists. This is a lesson I learned from my older sister. She came to visit me maybe about 2 years into my stay in Japan. She and her husband came, and she had done all the research. She knew exactly where she wanted to go, what she wanted to see and do. Basically, she followed my number 2 point that I made already. And she took us to 2 places I hadn't even heard of yet, and I didn't know anything about. We went to Takayama in Gifu Prefecture, and slightly more famous Nikko Toshogu in Tochigi Prefecture. But she planned it to be during this event where they were commemorating the parade of the remains of Tokugawa Ieyasu, the shogun who unified Japan. He's interred in Nikko, and that's where this festival takes place. And those experiences, based on the planning that my sister did, were amazing. And came away with photos and memories that, again, are a unique, almost personalized experience. And this is back in 2003 or 2004, so there weren't so many foreign tourists. But at that time, we were the only foreigners in those places. And that made it even feel more special. Lots of Japanese tourists, but not so many foreign tourists. Try to find those places. Why do the cookie cutter trip that everyone else does? Why get the same Instagram photos that everyone else gets? Throw a few places, at least one, that you've never heard of but sounds really interesting. And with Google and the internet now, it's not hard to research and find things like that. So that's my 5th and final recommendation. Let us know what you think. Are you going to take me up on any of these? Are you going to hold me accountable that you heard this on someone else's channel already? Let me know in the comments below. Either way, I'm really happy you watched this video. I hope you recommend it to anyone you know who might be traveling to Japan and could use these tips. Like, subscribe, all those great things if you are inclined, but otherwise, thank you so much for watching this video. I will catch you next time. Peace.